Welcome to Canning with a Purpose, and today we are going to be working on watermelon rind pickles. So don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel. Alright, obviously you need watermelon, right? Move you a little bit more. Ignore the dog in the background, she's outside. Alright, I'll cut that sucker open. Let me grab my bin, because I've already started this. Yeah, I got quite a bit going on. Our next video, I'm going to be making watermelon raspberry jelly. Say that 5 times fast. God knows I can't. Alright, so you're going to just cut squares into it with a sharp knife. We got a lot of watermelon today. I gotta force the habit of paying attention when using these knives, because I've cut myself and haven't even realized it. Just don't mind the silence. And put a towel down underneath my cutting board, not only to catch the juice, but it helps to prevent your cutting board from sliding. And since I'm doing jelly, I want all the juice in my bin. I found using a tablespoon to get the watermelon out of the shell is a lot easier. Okay, done. So that's gonna go over there in my 5-gallon bucket. Wipe that off as on my way through to moving that. I'll lift you up a little bit. There we are. You don't want no seeds in it for your jelly, so preferably seedless. They said seedless in the grocery store, but apparently they're not. But I went and planted 3 different types of watermelon this year in my garden, and had none of them come up. But I randomly have spaghetti squash that I did not plant. So I'm blaming the birds. I'm irritated because it's one thing I was looking forward to was watermelon out of the garden. But there's always next year, so I'll just roll with the flow of what nature decides to do. Oh, that's all I'm doing. I got another half a watermelon here, so I'm not gonna bore you. Figured I'd show you twice. The way I cut these rinds off, some people leave the rind on. I don't. I probably should, just to save time. I got a lot to can today. You want to make sure you get all that green part off. Now, instead of throwing the outer shell in the garbage, throw it in your compost. Instead of wasting it. I got a thing about wasting stuff, as you'll see over time. Not easy. I'll show you ones that I've done cut in half. Alright, the thinner you get, you see it gets flimsy. Just flatten it out so you don't cut yourself. You God knows you don't want to do that. And there we are. There's the outer portion. I'll run over there and grab another piece. I'll show you a second option you can do this with. This one's been cut in half, obviously. You can use a vegetable peeler. This is a left-hander, so yes, I'm going backwards. My son is left-handed, and I'm both, but my dominant is my right hand. I find this a little bit more of a pain in the ass with a vegetable peeler, but you waste a lot less. And certain portions of this is going to be flimsy too. You really got to be careful you don't cut yourself with this, because I have done that. You see how much of a pain in the ass it is. And why I prefer the other method over this. It does work, but the other way is a little bit easier. Okay, so almost an hour later, I'm just about done. You're gonna add a half a cup, no, 3/4 of a cup, sorry, of canning salt. If I can get around these clumps of salt. There we are. Sorry about the little bit of noise. I'm going to add a little bit more because my measuring spoon was not full all the way. And I'm going to run cold water on these. These are supposed to set for 24 hours. I don't let mine set for 24 hours. I'll let them set for maybe an hour, 2 hours. And then after that, I start processing them. So I'm going to let these set, mix the salt in. So that way it's not just sitting in one area. Now you are going to want to rinse these off when they're done. So have a strainer handy. I'm going to let this fill up a little bit more because over here I have that much more left. This bucket was, oh yay tall, about 5 gallons worth. This recipe came from a Ball cookbook. There is 4 cups of water in this stainless steel pot. We are going to need, well, 4 cups? Yes, 4 cups of vinegar. You're better off double checking your recipe just in case. Better safe than sorry. I know my pan's kind of blocking it. Alright, so there's our 4 cups of vinegar. You're going to need 6 cups of the watermelon rinds. I know 16 cups sounds like a lot, right? That's what I thought too. Alright, so we're going to need, we got our water, we've got our vinegar, we need 6 cups of sugar. Curious what's all that stuff is in the background. My mom is still working on building her cabins, so her stuff is in the house yet. It'll be nice when everything's said and done and she's able to move her things out, because I don't do cluster very well. clutter, cluster. I consider it a clusterfuck, but man, that's just me. Now we're going to take our watermelon rinds out of the salt water. And we're going to rinse these with cold water. And gently move that back because I've already spilt the water once. If you have a spray nozzle, even better. Trying to prevent the water from going on the counter. Not too worried about my camera. Alright, so that batch is rinsed off, I should say. The dog's out there yelping because the big dog wanted out and he's not getting along with her just yet. And she don't like being tied up. So I'm going to measure these out. To 16 cups. I might have to do a second batch of these. And take that one out of there. You don't want any fruit or vegetables or anything that got blemishes in it or spots or any of that, because it'll mess up your canning process in the long run and create bacteria and all that, and something you just don't want. So we got 8 cups here. I'm going to put this in our sugar bowl that we used earlier and keep measuring this out, which, since they're pretty good sized chunks, it's not going to take very long. Alright, so there's part of one. So I'm going to continue doing this. And not bore you. Now the water, the sugar, and the vinegar that we just put in that stainless steel pot, the sugar has to dissolve before you can go any further. Forgot to add that I did put cinnamon sticks in. You're going to make sure you stir this so your sugar does not burn. And you can see that the sugar still hasn't quite dissolved yet. So all we're doing is waiting on that. Alright, I went and removed my cinnamon sticks because after it's infused into the sugar, water, and vinegar, you want to remove them. I can smell it. Smell the difference between the two. It smells good. A little strong, but it smells good. So now we are going to carefully add our watermelon rinds to this. And I say carefully because sugar burns suck. So I'm going to hold this measuring cup right up to the side and slowly dump it in. Even it out a little bit, so that way it creates less splash when you add the rest of it in. Again, on the side, and gently dump it in. Don't stand up here and do it, you're going to get burnt. So you're going to cook these for about an hour until the rinds are translucent. Make sure you turn down your heat, either on medium low or low, and we're going to let those go. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and sanitize my jars. So I'm going to rewash them, although they're brand new. I'm still going to wash them. I put mine in the oven or the dishwasher because my dishwasher has a sanitizing cycle on it. and I'm going to get ready. I'm going to just set my lids in the small pan that I have behind this big stainless steel pot, but I'm not going to turn them on yet. Alright, I'm doing these in pint jars, so I'm going to fill my water to about here. Now what they are saying by transparent or translucent, same damn thing to me. There's this one here. So we're getting there. It does look good. You got a sweet tooth? Tell you what, this will definitely fix it. I've made these before. Yeah, I put my cinnamon sticks back in. But I made these before, and they were so sweet I couldn't eat them. This recipe has a little bit less sugar than the one I used. So, I'm gonna keep going with these. Fill our water bath canner and start from there. And now that I have my jars out of the oven, the one thing that they did not do, they did not put cloves, whole cloves in this recipe, but I'm going to. So I'm going to add 2 per jar. They are quite strong. Oops, that one's got 3. Oh well. So I'm going to go ahead, do that. Now you're going to want to water bath can these for 10 minutes. Which means the water has to be at least an inch up over the top. Darn, these cloves smell good. It's one of my favorite herbs or spices. You want a half an inch of head space. There we go. So I'm going to take my lid off because I did put the lid on to keep this warm. I'm missing a cinnamon stick in here somewhere. So that's what you're looking at. They smell good. Get a little bit of this brine. And then move on to the next. Move that up a little bit so you can see a little better. I let my ladle drip off a little bit before I transfer it to the jars. Oh. You can always push it down a little bit. Add a little bit more brine to that. So you're going to continue to go through and do this to each jar. Watermelon juicy, huh? Mm-hmm. Okay, so you want to go through, wipe off your rings or your top of your jars. These look so pretty in these jars. Smell good too. Right now we have our canning lids on the stove warming up. You don't want those to come to a boil. And we are going to start putting these in the canner. Okay, so all I'm doing is placing my last ring on this one jar. Make sure it's hand tight. Not Hercules tight. Hand tight. Now I did move my dish strainer for this. So obviously that's going to be in there. You want to keep them a little spaced so when your jars get, or your kettle gets boiling, your jars are going to rattle a little bit, and this, at least it'll give them a little space so they don't hit each other, because that's the last thing you want to do is hit each other. But I don't always follow that rule. Like, this canner will be packed full. And everything will be touching. So I don't always follow that rule. But once your canning kettle starts boiling, a full boil, as I call it, I'll show you what that looks like. That's when you want to start your time. So it's going to be 10 minutes once that steady boil starts. Alright, so let's see what's going on in this canner as soon as I get my glove on. Yeah, we're getting there, but we're not quite there with that boil that I'm talking about. So we will keep listening for it. So I can already tell you now that we are at the boil that we need to be. When you're lifting your lid, tip your lid toward you, and that's the boil that we are looking for. So our time starts now for 10 minutes. So it's time to take our watermelon rind pickles out of the canner. Do this very carefully. You want to set them on the counter on a towel. Do not use a metal rack. What I've found that works really well though is the bread racks that you see at the store when the bread delivery person brings in the bread to the stores. Oh my goodness, I loved mine. And of course I don't have it no more, unfortunately. So we're going to carefully take these out of the canner. Turn you around so you see what I'm doing. Careful not to clink them together. Boy, doesn't that look good. Make sure when you're canning that you do not have the AC on. Any cool draft when taking canning jars out of your canner, they will shatter because of the temperature difference. So make sure you are very careful when it comes to that. Right now I have my door partially shut, but it's cool outside today, so I'm not too worried about that. I always make sure my dog's not in the kitchen when I'm taking things out of the canner or emptying out my canner, so he don't get hurt and so I don't get hurt as well. So just make sure you got those few things in mind, because he does like to be, my dog likes to be underneath my feet, especially when I'm home doing things and it's just him and I and my son's sleeping. So definitely make sure he's not underneath your feet, because he likes to sneak up on me. Right now he's not feeling too good, so he's in there sleeping. Feel bad for the little shit. Although my little shit's 160 pounds of muscle, I still feel bad. I don't like it when anybody doesn't feel good. So I'm going to continue to take these out of the canner. Obviously put my next batch in. We have a total of 2 cases of watermelon rind pickles. It's nice when you can use everything and nothing goes to waste. I try to do recipes like that because I don't like anything going to waste. Unfortunately, our freezers got turned off by the puppy. She stepped on the surge protector that we have and tripped the button on it. So all 3 of our freezers went down, and there is no saving the food that was in our freezers. So luckily, I don't rely on just freezers. Canning is a lot of work, but it's well worth it in the long run. So there's our first batch. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to Canning with a Purpose.